Welcome to another episode of the Parramatta Cave podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Parramatta Cave.
All right, welcome back here to the Weekend Sports Wrap today with the Duckman. And we've got a special guest on now, Troy Warner from the Parramatta Cave podcast. Troy, how are you going?
Going pretty well, Duckman. Looking forward to a big round of NRL. A few players trying to get that selections into the Queensland and New South Wales Origin sides, and trying to forget last night's result between Parramatta and South Sydney.
So I saw that, right? So let's have a real quick overview of State of Origin. Who was State of Origin good for from player-wise? Who do you reckon come out of that like in a better position than they were beforehand? Latrell Mitchell, Angus Crichton, Liam Martin, like who else there do you reckon in New South Wales? They'd be the top three, wouldn't they, for sure? And Dylan Edwards probably.
Oh, well, you have to throw in there Mitchell Moses as well. He was the game.
Yeah, Mitchell Moses,
in the match. So,
if New South Wales win the series, I think they're saying Mitchell Moses probably will be the player of the series if they win it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but don't forget Zach Lomax as well. He played pretty well for New South Wales in game number 1 and 2, scored tries in both games. So he's had pretty consistent games. Angus Crichton has had pretty consistent Origin games. Liam Martin as well, who you mentioned there before. But, yeah, I mean, if New South Wales do win Game 3 up in Queensland, they haven't won there since 2005 in a decider. So if that happens, and if Mitchell Moses has the same game that he did in Game 2, then it very well could decide the Wally Lewis medalist and player of the series. But it'll just be interesting to see what happens first. But, yeah, those players that you mentioned, they have come out of it better. And, look, just quickly touching on the Origin sides, I don't think there'll be anyone changed for New South Wales. I mean, that was a dominant display in that first half, but Queensland, they may have a few changes.
Yeah, so Tarek Sims' sister, what's her name again? Ruin Sims. So She said that Billy Slater was the player of the tournament. He's not playing and there's no more games for him, so because she didn't watch it. But so people, did you hear about what happened with that?
No, I missed that one.
So because she voted for someone years ago, like Dally M points, and she said it on the footy show, I didn't even watch the game. I just gave points to who I thought played well. The player was out injured, and then ever since that, people chop her. So now people said, who did you vote for player of the series? Because last time Billy Slater got player of the series, she voted for it, and she said she wasn't even watching the game. So I think that's an interesting little flip on that. So, yeah. If I ever meet her, I'm going to ask her how Billy Slater's going and if he got the player of the series or player of the match. If she goes, he wasn't playing, so how would you know? You didn't watch it anyway. So that's a bit of a little chop at her.
I actually do remember when Billy won that medal, and I don't know who should have won that medal that year, but I do remember that big fuss about him winning that medal, actually, yeah, now that you bring it back. Because he only played 2 games out of the 3, so, I remember that one.
Yeah, that's right. So I can't remember. There were a couple of players I thought would have played and had more significant contributions than what he did when that happened. So, but yeah, they brought all that up as well. So let's have a blow through real quick from last week as well. So Bulldogs beat the Sharks 15-14 in the wettest game for a long time last week. We said Nico Hines, so he just looks like he's got a couple of little psychological things going on there that are bothering him. I'm pretty sure if he sits down with a sports psychologist, he might be able to nut through them. Like, these things happen to everyone, right? People missing field goals and that. But he's just had a couple of big hitter things hit him back to back. The State of Origin didn't go so good for him last year. Then this year in Game 1 either. New South Wales just smoked Queensland in Game 2. So all these things will be in his mind as well. Then he missed the field goal the other day and Burton whacked his one over. So there's one of one, half dozen of the other, right? So someone was going to win it. Unfortunately, he didn't. But you reckon they'll be getting in his head a bit now?
Yeah, we don't know what's happening off-field with Nico as well. that can be a bit of a drama as well. But he certainly is struggling a little bit, especially after that first Origin game where New South Wales got hammered by Queensland, and he was the halfback. So unfortunately for him, the weeks after haven't been too good, and just missing that field goal from it was practically sort of right in front too against the Bulldogs. That wouldn't have done his confidence a world of good either. He's just going through a purple patch at the moment, but I do think that Origin game number 1, did something to him mentally, I think. But in saying that, we also don't know what's happening off the field as well. So, look, hopefully he can get out of those whatever rut he is in, because he is a good player. He has won the Dally M Player of the Year before, and the Sharks need him to be performing at his best if they're going to be anything in this competition.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Warriors burned through Brisbane easy last week. So I predicted it would happen because I didn't think Brisbane are playing very well, and I don't know if it was a blip for the Warriors getting smashed by Gold Coast. Gold Coast were very, very good, and Warriors were very poor. But I think you can probably get Brisbane now if you can turn. Like that loss probably helped the Warriors beat Brisbane. If the Warriors had done anything else other than getting beaten, maybe they wouldn't have beaten Brisbane last week, because they needed that. It's like they need the edge all the time, a reason to have to get up, and I think that's going to stop them from going further in the comp this year.
Yeah, well, definitely. After having a result like that against the Titans, they needed to bounce back strong, and they did that against the Broncos, albeit with the Broncos having, I think, 5 Origin players out. It was a massive road trip to go from Melbourne to New Zealand, so the Broncos rested their Origin stars, but it was a much-needed win for the Warriors in front of a sold-out crowd again in Auckland. They needed to get that victory to get their confidence back up after that shellacking they copped from the Titans.
Yeah, that's right. The Knights took on the Eels and got the win there, 34-26. That's a pretty good result there by the Knights. So I thought the Eels might have been up for it because Mitchell Moses was good, but I think it took a lot out of him, right? So in the Origin the other day, and it's hard to be able to turn it on like that a couple of days in a row, or within a couple of days of another game when you've just had euphoric win a few days before.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes the euphoric of the game before in Origin can actually lift you again for a club game because you're on that high. Parramatta were 12-10 in front at half-time, but then Newcastle just came out after half-time and just scored a try 5 minutes after half-time, and then there was a couple of runaway tries to Bradman Best as well, which sealed the game. So a couple of controversial calls, some would say, against Parramatta, one against Micah Sevo, one against Blaze Talangi as well, which could have been try-scoring opportunities. But certainly Mitchell Moses, he scored 2 tries, 2 great tries as well. So he was still on a bit of a high from that game. So disappointing loss again to the Parramatta Eels against the Newcastle Knights.
Yeah, that's right. The Storm took on the Raiders. They got the job done 16-6. Not the most convincing win they've ever had. They had to grind it out a bit. Canberra are really hard to get a read on this year. One day they're pretty good. One day they are not very good at all. So they were all right the other day, but the Storm are good, and the Storm can turn it on when they need to.
Yeah, down in Melbourne, although Canberra do have a good record down there, the Storm machine just keeps on playing great. Jerome Hughes as well at halfback, he's just leading this team well around, and yeah, they just keep on rolling on top of the ladder. Canberra, they are struggling at the moment. They've had a few losses in a row now, so as you said, it's hard to get a read on them at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. The Dragons, they beat the Dolphins, which is a massive win for the Dragons, 26 points to 6 the other day. It was at Wynn Stadium, I think it was. But still a good win against the side that's in the top 4. Dragons will be really happy with that, and they look good moving forward.
Yeah, this one was at Cogra, in front of 8,000 people. It was quite slippery there at Cogra. A good win for the Dragons. The Dolphins got them, I think, in their first encounter, but the Dragons got the revenge here, and they have gone into the top 8. They sit in 8th position on the ladder at the moment, so a great effort so far, and they'll want to keep on winning to stay in that top 8. But so far, a fantastic effort. The Dolphins, a few injuries out of this game, most notably Jeremy Marshall-King. I think he's done a foot injury, so he'll be out for an extended period, which is a big blow for the Dolphins.
Yeah, it will be 100% a big blow. So the Dolphins have been really firing really well this year. Good to see the Dragons turn around, because I tipped them to come last or second. I can't remember if I tipped them to come last or second last. I knew that Shane Flanagan would turn around a bit, but he's done an exceptional job with what he's got. The Panthers took on the Cowboys the other day. It was a cold, wet day. I was commentating at Glenmore Park. I was glad the game was over when it was. Went home and caught the second half of the Penrith game, and they looked like it was glad when it was over too, right? Yeah. So did the Cowboys, even though the Cowboys got the win. I don't think Penrith did anything too bad, but Brad Schneider tried to get them sparked up when the Cowboys got in front. And his kicks were off touch a little bit, passes were off touch a little bit. Penrith went through the motions, did all the normal things, played the normal grind game, but wins and stuff. But they needed someone to X-factor some stuff up. All the State of Origin guys were out except for Isaiah Yeo, and they just couldn't pick it up, unfortunately, against Cowboys, who were pretty good when they had the ball. Scott Drinkwater got him a try, and I think he set up a try as well. So, yeah, they were good and deserved the victory there. But Penrith did get the opportunity to play a couple of young guys like Luron Patea, which was good. So they've got a couple more young guys, get some experience there in the team that keeps on kicking on, bringing more players through.
Yeah, very, I guess you could say one of the upsets of the round, albeit with Penrith resting all their Origin stars except for Isaiah Yeo, as you mentioned. The Cowboys played well. I think it's the first time in about 4 or 5 years, it could be longer, that they've won at Penrith. But again, a crucial win for the Cowboys just to stay in that race for that top 8. They are currently in 7th position on the ladder, a few other teams on 20 points as well. So a crucial win for them against the Premiers.
Yeah, I think last time I beat Penrith there was 2016 maybe. It was a long time, so it was a good win. Todd Payton needed that, because I can tell you before he started getting them on a winning run, I think he was the next coach that's going to get sacked. At the moment, he's steering them where they probably should be, which is on the verge of the top 8. So I don't think they're top 4 anymore. Like at the start of the year, I pegged them for that. But I think now top 8's realistic, so they need to just hang in. And they grinded one out, right? Defensively, they surprised me, because in the past they've been giving up a stack of points. So the weather wasn't really conducive to swing it, but they did what they needed to do, and they got a good win. The Roosters, so this game's absolutely devastated in this game. My favourite player got injured here, and the Roosters picked up a 40 points to 6 win. And poor Joey is injured now. He's out for a while because he broke a fingernail or something like that, or hand, or whatever he's done. And there he goes, out for like 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, he's gone busted hand, unfortunately, for Roosters fans. As you said, he'll be out for 4 to 5, possibly 6 weeks, which is no good for the Roosters, but I'm sure they'll find a replacement for him. I think Michael Jennings comes in this week as one of the centres, as well as Satili Tupanua as well. So they'll find someone in there. But look, the Tigers, they had 2 wins in a row before coming into this game. It was always going to be tough to beat the Roosters on their home deck with a pretty strong squad, even without like the likes of Angus Crichton did play. They still had a really strong squad in this game, so it was always going to be tough for the Tigers. A controversial sin binning to Api Coruscant as well. Many thought maybe he shouldn't have went, but it did look like it was one of those ones that could have went either way. So unfortunately, he did cop a sin bin for that one. But for Parramatta fans last week anyway, it was good because that meant that the Tigers went back down to the bottom, and Parramatta was second last. But since last night, that's gone back to Parramatta being last. But look, it was always going to be tough for the Tigers and the Roosters. They're coming good at the right end of the year.
Yeah, that's right. And now we're going to this weekend's game. So last night the Eels went down 32 points to 16 against the Rabbitohs. The Rabbitohs have been good. Latrell Mitchell picked that up and started playing good a couple of weeks before the Origin was leading up. I don't think it's just because of the Origin. I think because he was taken out of the Origin chat, I think it just let him play football. And because it let him just play football and everyone was just slagging out the Rabbitohs, everyone didn't expect much. Ben Hornby, he's done an outstanding job. He's turned them around. He's on the verge of getting them in the top 8 now, really. They've got the players probably to do it, but well, I think it's kudos to Ben Hornby at the moment. Trent Barrett, he must be wondering what is going on here. Like the Eels don't actually want him, I don't think. I think the players want to have him on board. The management and board don't want him, I don't think, and they're not prepared to say it. But gee, just end it, would you? Like either just if you don't want the guy, come out and say who the new coach is going to be. If you do want the guy, name him as coach because he's looked like he's walking on broken glass every day. He looks devastated.
Yeah, another tough loss for Parramatta. They're fourth in a row. For South Sydney, though, their fifth win in a row, and they are, as you said, close to the top 8. They're only 2 points out of that, so they are making a charge for the 8. I think they've got to win 9 out of, or 7 out of 9 or something like that, which is coming up. So still a tough run to go to get into that top 8, but they're certainly doing everything right getting there. It's funny a little bit because the Rabbitohs are coming good ever since they found out that Wayne Bennett was coming back to the club next year. So I don't know how that's worked with the minds of the players that have been there, but obviously something's clicked and they are getting the wins. So another win last night for Parramatta. Yes, very disappointing again. You can see the frustration in Mitchell Moses towards the end of the game. He got sin-binned for, I guess, a bit of a frustration act. Good to see a couple of debutants for Parramatta make their debuts in the NRL. Charlie Guymer and Jake Tungo as well, brother of Isaac. Charlie Guymer was probably the player of the game, I think, on a Parramatta side. Anyway, he was just in and everything. So from the same hometown of Temora as Liam Martin. So you can see where he probably gets his little bit of a playing style from, as we've seen Liam Martin, how he can play as well. So there must be something in the water in Temora, that's for sure.
No, there probably is. So the Rabbitohs, I heard them come out. Someone come out and said it today. They got Panthers in round 26 and then they got Roosters in round 27. They said, we're going to beat the Roosters by 40 to 50. Like, right, yeah, that's a big call. We're going to beat Penrith the week before as well by 20 plus. Like, okay, if you do that, you probably deserve to be in the top 8. But it makes me wonder what you did for the first 10 rounds of the competition when you were doing not very much at all. So, they really can't. Like, they're going to run out of steam, right? That's going to be a problem. I just don't know if they can do what Newcastle did last year and string 9 or 10 together because they've got too many big games to win and too many in a row. Like just beating Penrith and Roosters 2 weeks in a row, that's going to be a big effort, right? And they're going to need to win at least one of them if they win everything else. So probably realistically they're going to need to win both of them, and that's going to be tough. The Sharks are up against the Titans. The Sharks really are not having a good day, not having a good month, really, with the Titans up 20 points to 4 at the moment. Desi's turned them around. Since they whacked the Warriors, the Titans, they look like they've got some sort of premiership style about them now. So they had to buy last week, but geez, they've boosted their confidence. That's pumped them through the roof. They had a couple of close losses this year, but now they look like a different team. And they've got Carter Gordon. Is he playing tonight?
No, I think he trained with the side, I think, this week, and I don't think he'll be playing first grade this year, but he certainly will be in and around the team. I think Des said the other day he's not quite, I don't think, ready to play first grade yet, maybe not even Q Cup, but he's definitely going to be in and around training, learning, developing his rugby league knowledge and skills, and potentially we'll probably definitely see him in that team next year.
Yeah, I don't even know what position he'd be playing, to be honest with you. So in the Wallabies, he could play like fullback or 5'8" or whatever. So, but in rugby league, I wouldn't play him as they don't really play for inside centre, but you'd probably play him as a left side centre, potentially on the wing. You definitely have to put him back in the Queensland Cup to get him to play against some hardened players. Like, he's used to playing against professional footballers, but this is different. Let's get your head around the game first and see how you go before you go dropping you into first grade straight off the bat. It's no rush, so it's you're playing the long game. You want to get it all right before you get in there and make your debut, so you're up for it. Broncos are up against Panthers tonight, so the Broncos, they're mentally shot too. So if they lose tonight, their season's not gone. But if they lose tonight against the Panthers, they're going to have the world's hardest road home. They're going to have to nearly do what South's going to have to do. They'll have to win next week against the Dragons and do a stack of other things. The Panthers, I think they got all their Origin guys back except for Nathan Cleary. So my money's on the Panthers, right? They're going to probably be able to take this without too many dramas. Although when it's wet, you've got a better chance of beating Penrith because they struggle with it a bit. I don't know why, but they just do.
Yeah, up at Suncorp Stadium, this one, a grand final rematch. It should be a good one. Panthers got them back at Penrith Stadium earlier on this year. I think it's pretty convincingly as well, 34 points to 12, I think it was. Look, this is basically grand final sides, except obviously Adam Reynolds isn't there. And Nathan Cleary isn't there, so the two halfbacks aren't there, but still very strong sides from both of them. I think Penrith will get the win in this one, but as you said, Brisbane definitely need to get this win in front of their home fans because they are sitting outside the top 8 on 18 points. So there is a cluster of teams on 18 points, the Sea Eagles on 19, and then you've got the bottom 3 teams of the top 8, the Bulldogs, Cowboys, Dragons on 20 points. So it is a bit of a logjam there, but it's a very crucial game for the Broncos. They need to win this one. The Panthers, they are still sitting in second spot, so you don't see them lose 2 games in a row too often. So I think it's a big game for Reece Walsh. We've only seen him in Origin 2. Previous to that, he sat out a few games, so a bit more game time for him, which is good. I can't see Brisbane winning this one, unfortunately. I'm tipping the Panthers.
Yeah, so Penrith, one thing they've done, so 2 things happened to Penrith. So they released Taylor May today as well, and they re-signed Dane Laurie for, I don't know what, only re-signed him for 1 year. I don't know what that's all about. I'm not sure, but they only signed him for 1 year for next year at the moment. So I don't know what that means is happening with Jack. I think they want an experienced 5'8", so they're probably going to go with him looking at that because Jack Cole's probably not ready yet. And I think they want to keep Brad Schneider as a halfback. So not sure how that picture looks either, but yeah, we'll see what happens. I heard some conspiracy theories today from some Brisbane people. I said, Penrith. So the last 3 years, they've deliberately sat Nathan Cleary out in 2021, 2022 and 2023 for big patches of the season, and they rest him. They've come up with these fake injuries and rest him, or he gets suspended, strangely enough, and doesn't get suspended for very long, but a little bit, and it lets him recover, and then that helps him get into the grand final, and that's the only reason why he had energy in the back of the game to be able to beat the Broncos last year. I went, you've really thought about this, haven't you? So that guy, there's some weird stuff coming out at the moment, but it's all starting to come out. The Bulldogs against the Warriors, that's tomorrow. The Bulldogs are being good. They're playing like Bulldogs of the old, really starting to grind teams out. So they're starting to do that, playing tough football. Stephen Crichton, he would be the buy of the year. probably close to bye of the last 3 years, except Reece Walsh did it up at Brisbane last year. But for someone that's turned around a side that was not real good when they went there, as in Stephen Crichton, because the Bulldogs are struggling, he's really made them a genuine premiership contending side in the next couple of years for sure.
Yeah, definitely. His leadership is second to none at that club and has really got the team together. Look, they've got the second best defensive record in the competition behind the Panthers, and that's why they're winning games, their defence. And obviously, you score more points than the opposition as well, but their defence is the key, because defence is what wins you premierships. For the Bulldogs, they get Connor Tracy back, which is a good get for them, and they actually go into this game as favourites against the Warriors. And years gone by, it probably would have been the other way around. The Warriors probably would have been favourites, but the Bulldogs sit in 5th spot, and as I said before, just on 20 points, I think it is, and they will just need to try and get this win to get into that top 4, or just stick with those top 4 teams. And you never know, it could be a massive effort to get into that top 4 from the Bulldogs. The Warriors, they had a good win against the Brisbane Broncos last week. A few changes for them. I think late today, Tohu Harris, their captain, was ruled out of this game. So Mitch Barnett becomes captain of the Warriors, playing in the prop position. So great news for Mitchell Barnett becoming captain of the Warriors. There is on the cusp of New South Wales State of Origin. And Bunty Afoa comes onto the interchange bench for the Warriors. So, look, I have actually tipped the Bulldogs in this game, probably because it is at Accor Stadium, at their home ground, and they are really just playing some good footy at the moment. The Warriors, they are a little bit up and down.
Yeah, that's right. Now, I had Bunny Afoa in my side a couple of years ago in Supercoach and got him really cheap about 5 years ago now, 4 years ago. And it was a good pickup, and he got a lot of points because he's getting on the field doing a lot of stuff. And then a cheap pickup, well, that was really handy too. But yeah, I do think the Bulldogs will get the win here. Tomorrow, West Tigers, 5:30 p.m. They're up against Melbourne Storm. I don't really care where they're playing. I think Melbourne Storm's going to do a hatchet job on them. West Tigers, I think they're still learning. They've still got a young side. I think they've got to clean a few players out, to be honest with you. So keep some of the guys they got. They're going to have to bring some extra guys in, like maybe a Taylor May could be a good fit there, but I don't know how it fit with the culture, because I think they're trying to build some sort of good family culture. I'm not sure that works for the Tigers.
Yeah, well, the Storm go into this game pretty comprehensive favourites, first 16th. It is at Leichhardt Oval, though, and we have seen the Tigers pull up some great performances at Leichhardt Oval, the spiritual home of the Tigers. They had that good win against the Gold Coast a few weeks ago, and Justin Olam in the centre playing against his old club. We all know what players playing against their old club does to them. They tend to have a great performance against them, and he'll want to do everything he can to at least get the win. So, but it is going to be tough to beat this Melbourne Storm side. They just keep on rolling on. Still no Harry Grant as well. There was whispers around that he may not be available for Origin 3. So still no Harry Grant in this Melbourne Storm side, but they've got some pretty handy replacements anyway. Xavier Coates is also out as well, but I did tip the Melbourne Storm in this game.
Yeah, that's right. So I'll pick Melbourne as well for that one. This next game here, Cowboys against the Seagulls tomorrow night, 7:35 p.m. up in North Queensland. After the way they played against Penrith last week, I was very impressed with the Cowboys. They just went through the motion, got the points when they were there, and showed some expansive football when they need to do that. And they also rolled the sleeves up in defence and stopped Penrith, who just went through the grind and just made it hard for the Cowboys to get the win. The Cowboys were very dominant, and I think they're going to be too dominant for Manly, even though Tom Trbojevic comes back and he's going to be in the centres this weekend.
Yeah, you would like to think that the Cowboys would get this win, and especially being at home and being favourites in this one. Their Origin stars come back as well, which strengthens their team. As you mentioned there just before, Tom Trbojevic, he's back in the centre position for Manly, so that is a good boost for them. He has played centre for New South Wales in Origin before, so he's no stranger to the position. I think they've moved him there to try and prolong his career and hopefully not get injured as much, so we'll just have to wait and see how that goes. But Manly, hard to gauge team. They had the week off last week, so I think Newcastle, North Queensland will do it comfortably, I think.
Yeah, I would think that's going to happen as well. So Jake Trbojevic didn't play a full Origin game again. People are criticising him for that. They got to stop doing that because Danny Buderus, I remember when he captained New South Wales, he started on the bench, so which was explained a lot about his whole career, really. But yeah, there we go. We'll see how the Cowboys go. I do think the Cowboys will get the win. And anyone in Newcastle doesn't like it, I gave it to Danny Buderus, 0434 440 553. Text in and let me know, and I'll tell you what I think about other different Newcastle players too. So, but Danny Buderus, he was on the bench for a long time, and for a captain that played halfback and then went into hooker, should play more instead of Origin, and should have played more on the field, so instead of watching on the sideline. But there you go. Roosters against the Dragons, that is Sunday, 2 p.m. Even without Joey Manu, who really is genuinely one of the three best players in the comp, even I don't particularly like him. I would love to have seen him play because he faked it against the Dragons. That's what made me start not liking him a couple of years ago. I just went, that's really arrogant, and the Dragons just hung off him and went, oh, he scored a try, and they did it again in the same game. Like, really? If he did it the way in the game, he'd be like picking up his mouth guard off the field when you just absolutely drop him. So not with any high shots or nothing, but seriously. The Roosters, I think they're going to be too good. They're just generally too good for the Dragons. So the Dragons, if it rains, I reckon that will go right down Shane Flanagan's favourite avenue there, because they're going to be able to grind it out against the Roosters, who are missing a few players for this game. So I do think the Roosters will win. It's not going to be as easy as it might have been a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, played at the same venue as the Anzac Day game where the Roosters absolutely smashed the Dragons, 60 points to 18. But I don't think this game will be anything like that because the Dragons have come a long way since that day. The Roosters, they as I said before, they're coming into the right. They're playing at the right time of year, coming into finals. They are warming up for them. Michael Jennings and Satili Tupanua in the centre position, so not the centres that we are used to seeing for the Roosters, but a few injuries have made these two into the centres. Jared Waerea-Hargreaves, he becomes the most capped Rooster in history, which is an amazing effort from a front row forward, so congratulations to him. The Dragons, Zach Lomax comes back. He, as I said, he's probably been the Dragons' best player, along with Ben Hunt, the captain, as well. But I don't think this will be like the Anzac Day game with the high score. I think the Roosters will win, but I think the Dragons will be pretty close to them.
Yeah, I think it will be pretty close, right down to maybe about 8 points. I think there'll be a try later in the game. It'll break it, and that'll be sort of how it rolls. The Roosters will probably just get in front and glide through. I imagine Dragon's going to make it very hard. But I was chatting to Jimmy Smith the other day, messaged him on the radio on SEN, and he said to me, Duckman, what's going on? So they're talking about who are the three best Roosters players you've ever seen. I threw him. When you're thinking of the three best players for Roosters, you tell me who you're thinking, and I'll tell you who I put in.
Three best Roosters players ever. Well, you'd probably have to have Arthur Beetson there, and you'd probably have to have Brad Fittler there, and just trying to think over the last couple of years. I mean, obviously Jared's going to be there now, but I don't know, Boyd Cordner, perhaps.
Yeah.
Mitch Orbison as well. Luke Ricketson.
Yeah. What about these three guys? Wayne Portlock, Brendan Hall, Hugh McGahn. He just goes, Duckman, where has this come from? So
great names, great players.
Yeah, he goes, you pull them from out of your footy card collection or something. Said 100%. So he was very favourable. I said that I think that Brendan Hall's better than Brad Fittler and Joey Manu combined, and he started laughing. It was the funniest thing he's ever heard. But Brendan Hall was a good footballer. He was a good 5'8" from lock and centre with the Roosters. So there's some blasts from the past. So I'd like to try to do that. So I'm going to try to get some of these guys. I'm pretty sure some of them will come and have a chat too. Hugh McGahn, he played for New Zealand and was captaining New Zealand back around time when Mark Graham was playing for the Norths, and they both come across from Auckland. And very good players. Mark Graham, he was a tough bloke, right? So
one of the toughest.
Didn't mind getting on the knuckle a bit over too, apparently. There you go. I'm pretty sure those three guys are just named. Maybe Hugh McGahn might go close to Roosters' best ever team, but not sure. I like Wayne Portlock and Brendan Hall have cool footy cards, but I don't think they're going to make the best ever teams, unfortunately. The Raiders and the Knights. So the Raiders have been struggling at home, even though they're going to want to hope it's cold and wet and everything bad for Newcastle. I think Newcastle are going to get the job done because they just looked really good against the Eels the other night in the wet too. I just think they're going to be able to get the business done against Canberra on Sunday too.
Yeah, I have tipped Newcastle to win this game. I just cannot think of a reason why to tip Canberra. Possibly the only one would be that it is in Canberra, but that's probably all about it. KO Weeks goes back to fullback. He's been playing in the halfback spot for the last few weeks, so a long time now, but he goes back to fullback. So Coach Ricky Stewart mixing it up there, just trying new things to spark something. But I think Newcastle will get the win. Kalen Ponga has been named, but I think there has been talk today that he may not play. He just 1 week off being fully fit, so he may or may not play yet. He is still named, but you'd probably think that Fletcher Sharp will go back to that fullback position if Kalen Ponga doesn't play, and probably Jack Hetherington will come onto the bench. So I just think the way that Newcastle played last week, I think potentially that can keep the roll on and get the win against the Canberra Raiders. So I'm tipping Newcastle.
Yeah, it's right. So Newcastle get the win there. I think they're going to be able to do it. We fall without Kalen Ponga, so Jackson Hastings has been good. Frizzell was all right. Frizzell played last week, didn't he? So pretty sure I saw him on the field playing for the Knights. Hastings was good, but they've just been pretty good overall in general, Newcastle at the moment, which is good because Adam O'Brien's another coach who's going to be under the pump, right? If he does name up Watmow, what's going to happen with Watmow if he doesn't do a good job with the Eagles? Is he going to last or not?
Who?
Sorry, not Watmow.
Seibold, Anthony Seibold.
That's it, Seibold, yeah.
I'm sitting there thinking, Watmow, he's not a coach, he just played. There has been a little bit of talk about his position and whether he will maintain the head coaching role. There has been a little bit of whispers as well that maybe potentially Brad Arthur might go over to the Northern Beaches and become the head coach. I don't know what's going to happen. We just have to wait and see how this season rolls out. I guess for Manly, if Manly make the semis, well then I think Anthony Seibold's job will be safe for another year anyway. If they don't make the finals, then maybe early next year or middle of next year, maybe his job might be in question. So I think at the moment he is safe, and just have to see how the rest of the year goes out.
So what I think is going to happen with Brad Arthur, I think Brad Arthur is going to end up with the 18th franchise, whoever that is, right? I think he'll be because he's the best coach available that's probably not coaching at the moment, so it's not in the line directly for another job. If he doesn't do that, he might be in line for the Wellington job if they get the the Christchurch side, the one that Dave Moffat's with. If he doesn't get that, if he doesn't get that, potentially, I think they're going to go for an experienced coach for that role. I don't think they're going to go for a rookie guy. So you're likely to see someone like potentially Brian Smith if he's serious about wanting to spend a couple more years. How would you feel if he was the coach at Parramatta again?
I'd welcome it, to be honest. He turned the club around when he was back there in the middle to late 90s. He obviously hasn't won a premiership. People will say that, the NRL has changed since his time in coaching. Yeah, that's probably fair enough and definitely has been. But I think he would be the experienced candidate to come in. And look, he's made 3 grand finals in the NRL with St George and Parramatta. Hasn't won any of them, but I think you do see someone like Trent Robinson who's learnt under Brian Smith as well. Got the experience there, and we've seen what he can do. We've seen Ivan Cleary sacked at the Panthers previously, and he's now come back, and look what he has done. I just think he's got a really good rugby league knowledge, and I think he's got that experience, and you can't buy that these days. And I think an experienced coach is what Parramatta needs anyway, not a rookie coach to make them go forward. So, look, it's a bit of a long shot. Most of the media are talking about Jason Ryles and Josh Hannay as the 2 top candidates for the job. This sort of Brian Smith talk came up about yesterday, with that he was interested in the position as well to come back to Parramatta. Look, if he doesn't get the head coaching role, then maybe a Gus Gould type of role at Parramatta, like a head of football, general manager type. Just having that wealth of knowledge at Parramatta would be priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. So my question is, right, and it's less about Josh Hannay at the moment because Josh Hannay has only really been put in for this job. Jason Ryles, right, knockback St George, said formally declined before they offered him a job last year, said he wasn't interested, probably expecting to get a shoe-in straight off the bat to Melbourne, and Bellamy stayed, so he didn't get that. Will he stay again and wait for Bellamy to make a decision again, so if he doesn't get his job, or if another franchise comes in, do you think he'd get a job in another franchise to start the franchise off? Would you make him a franchise head coach, or do you think you need to go for an experienced guy?
I think you probably have to go for an experienced coach, but how many experienced coaches are out there these days? I mean, off the top of my head, I could think of Jeff Tuvey. I don't think Tim Sheens will come back to coaching. Who else is out there? Justin Holbrook. I'm not too sure if he'll leave the Roosters for a little bit of period of time. They're the only ones that I can think of at the moment. But look, I think, you're right. He does want that Melbourne job, but we see Craig Bellamy just year after year just going on for one more year. I'm not too sure how many years Craig's got down in Melbourne. We know he's got next year, but again, around the same time of year next year, May, June, July, he might make that decision to go around again. So what does Jason Ryles do in that situation? So head coaching roles don't come up every day in the NRL. We've only seen 2 come up this year, with the sacking of Jason Demetri at South and also Brad Arthur at Parramatta. So there's only been 2 that come up this year. Who knows how many will come up next year. So if he's unsuccessful, he'll probably stay at Melbourne and hope that Craig retires and he can get that Melbourne job.
So I think that's what that'll be the best fit for him. I would like him in a new franchise, but I think it's such a big job. He would struggle, not because he doesn't know what he's doing, he would struggle because he's going to have to completely assemble a side. And you're going to have to put together a side that you don't know how they're going to go and hope for the best, and then potentially rebuild it a bit in season 2 and 3, because you're probably going to have guys on 2 or 3 year deals. You'll have a couple on 1 year deals. So you'll definitely be adding and taking players out of that side in year 2 if you haven't got the balance right. In year 3, you might be doing the same thing again. So that was the problem when Gold Coast Giants came in. Whereas when Brisbane came in, they had a little bit more stabilised stuff from guys that have been playing together in the Brisbane Queensland Cup and that. Those Gold Coast Giants in particular. They had Glenn Burgess from St George. They had Ronnie Gibbs and Chris Close from Manly, and all these guys, bits and pieces of Ben Gonzalez from Penrith, Joe Vitans from Penrith. They had all these guys from all these different places, and it just didn't work. So Bobby McCarthy just couldn't get it going. So does that say anything about his coaching? Perhaps. It says he's not the greatest coach ever. Everyone's a brilliant player. Jason Miles, I don't know. I don't know if I would like a big job like that. But that's a job, but you're going to come out of it like, oh yeah, you did this, but you're never going to get a premiership success or anything with that side to start off with, because you've got to do so much rebuilding. So if that's what you want to do, that sounds like an older coach job to me that is happy. Probably know they're not going to win a comp, or can make a side competitive and work with development and building teams. So yeah, who gets that? Who knows, right? Jeff Tuvey, I don't know if he would go for something like that, because he looks pretty settled. Last time I saw him at rugby on the Northern Beaches, I don't even reckon you could get him to move to in the West. I reckon there'd be like he'd drag him kicking and screaming over the bridge, I can tell you.
The other question too is if it's not a experienced coach and it is a rookie coach, when do you actually go with a rookie coach as well? When do they get their start? How do they get that experience? The best rookie coach that's around at the moment would be Jason Riles. He's the most experienced assistant that's sitting there and not coaching right now. So it'd have to be him. He'd be the only assistant really. Like even Penrith, I don't think Penrith's got anyone you could put up at the moment that you'd say, yeah, this guy's miles above. Justin Holbrook's probably the other one, but he's been a coach, so he's not inexperienced and a rookie. Yeah, you'd have to get an experienced guy that's been a coach, perhaps like a Brian Smith, to work with someone and sit in the background, happy to work with Jace. That could work. But, yeah, it'd be a tough job for a new coach getting a new franchise team. You mentioned him before as one of your top 3 Roosters, Hugh McGahn. He's got a 50% coaching record. That might be a name, but, I mean, he only coached 6 games in 1990 for 3 wins, 3 losses. So, but he still has a 50% coaching record, which is a lot better than some of the other coaches that have coached before. But, yeah, I just found it funny that you mentioned Hugh McGahn, and I've just seen that he has coached 6 games. And also, I tell you another story as well. This just adds to the legendary status of Parramatta Eels legend Ray Price. He actually captain coached a game in the rugby league in 1985 for a 24-10 win over the Canberra Raiders. So, captain coached that great Parramatta side in 1985. There you go, 100%. Coaching record.
So there we go. I'll throw in another anomaly about Ray Price. You probably don't even know, even though you're a Parramatta fan. So before Ray Price come to the club, Parramatta were in no grand finals. When Ray Price came to the club, they made every grand final. They won 4. When Ray Price left the club, they haven't won a grand final since. So is that ironic or what? In the first grand final, every other grand final until they finished winning 86, and they haven't won a grand final since. 2001, 2009, and 2020, whatever it was, 22, 21.
Yeah, phenomenal record there. And as you said, when Ray came to the club, made grand finals, and when he left, it was a long time before made another one. So, and he was part of all 4 of those grand final victories. So, a magnificent player, Ray Price.
So I've got another coach up our own there, Brian McClenaghan. Would he be coaching one of the New Zealand sides if that got up and was one of the 20 sides in the comp?
I'm not too sure what he is doing these days, but he certainly, look, he's only coached, I think, 1 year in the NRL. That was 2012. Obviously, with the Warriors there, only 8 wins, 14 losses, 36.4% record. Potentially, I don't know what he is up to these days. So, or would Stacey Jones be pried away from the Warriors? Probably not, but that's another coach that could potentially go there. I'm just trying to think. Do you need a New Zealander to coach a New Zealand side?
I don't think you do. So, but it would help engage it with the community. So that's going to be the biggest selling point. If you don't go, this is why an inexperienced coach won't be good there, right? Because it's going to be hard to sell it if you're an experienced coach and they struggle in their first couple of years, like they would. It just won't go so well. So I think Brian Smith, you could sell that. That would be marketable for sure. David Moffat could sell it. I can tell you can sell a lot of stuff. But he'd be on the hit list of people you want. If you want an experienced guy, he's going to be the guy to do it. So will he be able to coach for 8 years? No, yeah, but coach for 3 to 4 years? Oh, very likely. So he'll give you at least 2 or 3 good years. If you've got someone in like Christian Wolf, like that style of coach that's developing, said, here you go, you're going to take this over. Like, I think it's perfect to hand over what's going on with the Dolphins at the moment. So, yeah, I can only imagine who will get these other spots anyway. So I do think that now Brian Smith's really set up. If he's serious about coaching again, I think he might end up with one of these 3 expansion sides when they come in 2026 or whatever's happening. But I think we'll see the 18th team get named in the next couple, maybe after the grand final. I'm not sure if it'll be beforehand, but someone's got to name it if they're going to be in 2026 because they've got to recruit players in 2025.
Yeah,
otherwise, they're going to have problems.
There was a bit of talk on social media, I think it was today, that it does look like it is official that the North Sydney Bears and WA are going to get together and make a bid for that 18th team and potentially be that 18th team in the NRL. So it does look like they might be the first ones in before the PNG team.
Yeah, 100%. So if they got the stuff ready, you got to pick who's ready, right? The Papua New Guinea side, they don't have a ground, they don't have infrastructure. All they've got is a promise from the Australian government to tip 600 million into it. So, yeah, I'd say the other places, Christchurch bid forever long, the WA bid further along, and would there be another team from Queensland come in maybe, like Central Queensland somewhere? I'm not sure if that would be in the picture. I know a few people from Brisbane would like to see it. Not sure if that definitely wouldn't be the number 18th team. I think 18th needs to be Perth, or if they're going to throw this Papua New Guinea franchise in, they can't be the next one either. It's just not anything ready. So they either be Perth or WA, some sort of enhancement of that. They're nearly better off throwing in the side from Las Vegas or something than Papua New Guinea. At least they get some better revenue or whatever they want. And yeah, in New Zealand side, they'd be right up there too. Anyway, we could talk about this for about the next 10 hours, 100% for sure, probably boring people now. If anyone's got an opinion, actually, interested to hear what people say, 0434 440 453. Text us in. Who do you think the next team should be in the NRL, and what other expansion teams would you have in when you go between teams? Anyway, we'll wind it up there. So, Troy, what do you got on for Paracade Podcast this week?
Funnily enough, I've got a fan and members interview out on the podcast now, and the fan's name is Ray Price. Could you believe that one? So, he was actually named Ray Price before he came to Parramatta. So, and he is a Parramatta Eels fan. So, an interesting story there. Got a review of last night's game between South Sydney and Parramatta on there. I'll have a replay chat of this one as well out tomorrow as well. So, plenty coming up on the podcast.
There you go. Looking forward to that. All right, Troy. Thanks for your time tonight. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your footy, and we'll catch up again next Friday night.
Not a problem, Duckman. Enjoy your footy over the weekend. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely will do.
The Parracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Eels Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, and the official media partner of the Parracave Podcast, the Parramatta Times.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Parracave Podcast. See you next time.